Margot Elise Robbie was born on July 2, 1990, in Dalby, a small rural town in Queensland, Australia. Her childhood was anything but glamorous, far removed from the glittering lights of Hollywood, where her future would one day take her. Dalby was a farming community, and life there was simple, demanding, and often tough. Margot grew up on her grandparents' farm, spending much of her time surrounded by nature, riding horses, climbing trees, and helping with chores. She was the second youngest of 4 children, with 2 brothers, Lachlan and Cameron, and a sister, Anya. Her mother, Sari Kessler, worked as a physiotherapist and raised the children largely on her own after Margot's father, a sugarcane tycoon named Doug Robbie, left the family when she was still very young. His absence shaped her deeply, giving her both a sense of independence and a determination to carve her own path without relying on anyone else. Life in the Robbie household was often chaotic, filled with the noise and energy of 4 children who learned quickly how to be resourceful and tough. Money was tight, and Margot's mother worked long hours to provide for them. From a young age, Margot knew what responsibility meant. She also knew the feeling of wanting more than what her small town could offer. While many around her were content with rural life, she dreamed of something bigger, though she didn't quite know what form that dream would take. What she did have was boundless energy and a magnetic presence that people noticed, even as a child. Margot was imaginative and adventurous, often acting out scenes for her siblings, performing impromptu skits, or imitating characters from television shows. She wasn't the type of child to sit quietly in the corner. Instead, she was always in motion, whether it was practicing tricks on her skateboard, learning to surf, or staging little plays for her family. That restless energy sometimes got her into trouble at school, where she was seen as mischievous and unruly, but it also revealed a spark of creativity and confidence that set her apart. By her teenage years, Margot was already juggling multiple jobs to help ease the burden on her mother. She worked at Subway making sandwiches, cleaned houses, and even worked at a surf shop. These jobs taught her the value of hard work, but they also fueled her desire to do something greater. Despite her family's practical mindset, Margot never felt suited to a safe or ordinary career path. She was drawn instead to storytelling, performance, and the thrill of becoming someone else. Acting, she realized, could be her escape, a way to live many lives beyond the confines of her small town. Her first steps toward acting began in high school, where she studied drama and threw herself fully into school plays. Teachers and classmates noticed that she had a natural ability to command attention on stage. She wasn't just reciting lines. She was fully inhabiting characters, delivering performances with an intensity and conviction that belied her age. Encouraged by this, she decided that acting wasn't just a hobby, could be her way out, her way forward. After graduating from Somerset College on the Gold Coast, she packed her bags and moved to Melbourne, a city that offered more opportunities for aspiring actors than her hometown ever could. The move to Melbourne was both thrilling and terrifying. Margot was barely out of her teenage years with little money and no safety net, but she had something stronger than security. She had determination. She threw herself into auditions, often taking long train rides across the city just for the chance to be seen. At the same time, she continued working odd jobs to support herself, including bartending and cleaning. Many people might have given up when faced with rejection after rejection, but Margot refused to. She believed that if she kept showing up, eventually someone would notice. Her persistence paid off when she landed small roles in independent films and commercials. These jobs weren't glamorous, but they gave her invaluable on-set experience and taught her how the industry worked. She was a quick learner, always asking questions, always pushing herself to do better. Her natural beauty caught attention, but it was her charisma and work ethic that started to set her apart from the hundreds of other hopefuls trying to break through. Then came the opportunity that would change her life, a role on the iconic Australian soap opera Neighbours. For decades, Neighbours had been a launching pad for Australian talent, with stars like Kylie Minogue, Guy Pearce, and Russell Crowe having appeared on the show before making it big internationally. When Margot auditioned for the role of Donna Friedman, a quirky and ambitious teenager, she gave the casting directors exactly what they were looking for. Her performance was vibrant, funny, and filled with an undeniable spark. Initially, the role was meant to be a guest appearance, but Margot brought so much energy to the character that producers decided to make her a regular cast member. From 2008 to 2011, Margot appeared in nearly 300 episodes of Neighbours. For many Australians, she became a familiar face, beloved for her portrayal of Donna, who was at once eccentric, vulnerable, and full of charm. The role was her training ground, teaching her how to handle long shooting schedules, intense storylines, and the pressures of working on a popular show. Unlike many soap opera actors who fade into obscurity after their time ends, Margot treated Neighbours as her education, using it as a stepping stone rather than a destination. Despite her success in Australia, Margot always knew she wanted more. Hollywood was the ultimate goal, and she wasn't afraid to chase it. Leaving a steady job on Neighbours was risky, but Margot believed in herself enough to take the leap. With little more than a suitcase and her dreams, she boarded a plane to Los Angeles, ready to start over in an industry notorious for breaking hearts and crushing ambitions. She was 21 years old, with no famous connections, no guarantees, and no promises. But she had the same determination she carried since childhood, the refusal to accept anything less than extraordinary. Los Angeles was overwhelming at first. The city was sprawling, competitive, and filled with actors who had the same dream she did. For every audition she attended, there were hundreds of others waiting in line, all equally hungry for a break. But Margot had something that made her stand out. She wasn't just another pretty face. She had grit. She had a willingness to outwork anyone in the room. And she had the kind of charisma that couldn't be faked. She knew she wasn't there to be background noise. She was there to take up space, to demand attention, to carve her name into an industry that often swallowed people whole. Her first big opportunity in the United States came with the television series Pan Am, an ABC drama about flight attendants and pilots in the 1960s. Margot landed the role of Laura Cameron, a young woman running away from her wedding to become a stewardess. The show only lasted for one season, but for Margot, it was a crucial step. It gave her exposure to American audiences and allowed her to work alongside seasoned actors like Christina Ricci. More importantly, it taught her how Hollywood operated, the stakes, the pace, the expectations. She was no longer the girl from Dalby. She was Margot Robbie, an actress finding her footing in the biggest entertainment market in the world. Even though Pan Am was short-lived, it opened doors. Casting directors began to take notice, and soon she found herself auditioning for roles in major films. At this point, she was still an unknown in Hollywood, but her name was starting to circulate in the right rooms. Then, in 2013, she got the audition that would change her life forever, a role opposite Leonardo DiCaprio in Martin Scorsese's The Wolf of Wall Street. When Margot Robbie walked into the audition room for The Wolf of Wall Street, she knew it was the opportunity that could change her life. She was a 22-year-old actress from Australia, still largely unknown in America, and suddenly she was standing in front of Martin Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio, two of the biggest names in cinema. Most people would have been intimidated, and Margot was nervous, but she also knew this was her moment to prove she belonged. She had read the script carefully, studied her character, and decided she wasn't going to play it safe. Her character, Naomi LaPaglia, was a firecracker, a glamorous, sharp-tongued woman who becomes the second wife of Jordan Belfort, the infamous stockbroker played by DiCaprio. The role demanded confidence, charisma, and raw energy. During the audition, Margot made a bold choice that stunned everyone in the room. In one of the heated scenes, instead of simply delivering her lines, she slapped Leonardo DiCaprio across the face. It wasn't in the script, and the room went silent for a moment. Then Scorsese laughed, DiCaprio smiled, and Margot knew she had made an impression. That slap became the moment that got her the role. When the film was released in 2013, audiences around the world were introduced to Margot Robbie in the most unforgettable way possible. She was fearless, magnetic, and impossible to ignore. Her performance as Naomi was sensual, witty, and fiery, holding her own against DiCaprio in every scene. Critics raved about her breakout performance, and audiences were mesmerized by the stunning blonde newcomer who stole scenes in a movie filled with larger-than-life characters. Overnight, Margot Robbie went from being a struggling actress to one of Hollywood's most talked-about stars. But with that attention came challenges. The world saw her beauty and instantly labeled her as a bombshell, a new sex symbol of Hollywood. Margot, however, didn't want to be defined solely by her looks. She knew that if she accepted only glamorous roles, her career would be short-lived. She wanted longevity, the kind that came from proving her versatility as an actress. So instead of rushing into similar roles, she carefully chose her next projects, determined to show she was more than just the Wolf of Wall Street girl. In 2015, she starred in Focus alongside Will Smith, playing a clever con artist who enters into a complicated relationship with Smith's character. The film allowed her to display charm, intelligence, and chemistry on screen, while proving she could carry a movie as a leading lady. While reviews were mixed, Margot's performance was widely praised, and her star power continued to rise. She followed this with a role in Z for Zachariah, an intimate post-apocalyptic drama that gave her the chance to play a quieter, more nuanced character. It was a clear signal that she wasn't chasing fame, she was chasing craft. Margot's big studio moment came with The Legend of Tarzan in 2016, where she played Jane Porter opposite Alexander Skarsgård. The film gave her another chance to step into a major blockbuster, but once again, she avoided being boxed into the typical damsel in distress archetype. Her Jane was independent, strong-willed, and far more active in the story than previous iterations of the character. The film did moderately well at the box office, but for Margot, it was another opportunity to show Hollywood that she could shine in different types of films. That same year, Margot made a career-defining move when she took on the role of Harley Quinn in DC's Suicide Squad. This was a bold decision, as comic book characters carry enormous expectations from fans, and Harley Quinn was one of the most beloved and complex. Margot threw herself into the role with complete dedication, studying the character's history, mannerisms, and psychology. On screen, she transformed Harley into a wild, unpredictable, and magnetic force, equal parts dangerous and endearing. Even though the film itself received mixed reviews, Margot's Harley Quinn was universally praised. She became the standout star of the movie, and audiences instantly demanded to see more of her in the role. Harley Quinn wasn't just another character for Margot. It was a role that cemented her as a pop culture icon. Cosplayers dressed as her, fans quoted her lines, and her performance sparked an entirely new franchise. But Margot, ever strategic, didn't allow herself to be defined solely by a comic book role. She knew she needed to balance blockbuster films with projects that showcased her artistic depth. Her breakthrough as a serious actress came in 2017 with I, Tonya, the darkly comedic biopic about figure skater Tonya Harding. Margot not only starred in the film but also produced it through her production company, Lucky Chap Entertainment, which she had co-founded with her husband Tom Ackerley and friends. This was the beginning of her stepping into a new role in Hollywood, not just as an actress, but as a producer determined to tell bold, unconventional stories. Playing Tonya Harding was a massive challenge. Harding was a controversial figure, remembered for her involvement in the infamous scandal surrounding the attack on fellow skater Nancy Kerrigan. But Margot didn't approach the role with judgment. Instead, she worked tirelessly to understand Harding's perspective, training in figure skating for months and immersing herself in the emotional complexity of the character. The result was transformative. Margot disappeared into the role, delivering a performance filled with vulnerability, rage, and humanity. I, Tonya was a critical triumph. Margot received her first Academy Award nomination for Best Actress, along with nominations at the Golden Globes and BAFTAs. The film also won Allison Janney an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. For Margot, it was a defining moment. She had gone from being a breakout star in The Wolf of Wall Street to an Oscar-nominated actress and respected producer in just a few short years. The industry now understood that Margot Robbie was not a passing phenomenon. She was here to stay, and she was shaping her own path. With this newfound respect, Margot began choosing projects that excited her rather than simply chasing box office success. She played Queen Elizabeth I in Mary Queen of Scots, 2018, opposite Saoirse Ronan, transforming herself with heavy makeup and delivering a performance that was regal, complex, and filled with restrained power. In Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, 2019, she played Sharon Tate, embodying the late actress with grace and tenderness. Though some critics wished her role had more dialogue, others praised the way she captured Tate's spirit, offering a touching portrayal that honored her legacy. By this point, Margot was balancing two careers, one as an A-list actress and another as a producer championing unique voices in Hollywood. Her company Lucky Chap Entertainment became known for backing female-driven stories, producing films and television projects that often challenged the industry's norms. Margot wasn't just starring in films. She was helping create them, ensuring that the kinds of stories she wanted to tell actually made it to the screen. Her career continued to flourish as she reprised Harley Quinn in Birds of Prey, 2020, a film she also produced. Unlike Suicide Squad, Birds of Prey gave her full control over Harley's story, and she delivered a bold, colorful, and unapologetically wild adventure that centered women at the heart of the narrative. Though the film had a rocky box office run due to the pandemic, it was praised for its energy, creativity, and Margot's fully committed performance. At the same time, she kept showing her range in other projects, from the political drama Bombshell, 2019, where she earned another Oscar nomination, to the Suicide Squad, 2021, where she once again stole the spotlight as Harley. Whether in dramas, comedies, or superhero blockbusters, Margot Robbie had proven that she could do it all. As Margot Robbie entered the next chapter of her career, she was no longer just an actress chasing roles. She had become a powerful creative force shaping the very projects she wanted to see on screen. With Lucky Chap Entertainment, she and her team made it their mission to produce bold, boundary-pushing stories with women at the center. They weren't interested in the usual Hollywood formulas. They wanted characters who were complicated, messy, and real. This shift in focus marked a significant transformation for Margot, who had spent the early years of her career fighting against the stereotype of being just another glamorous blonde. Now, she was taking control of the narrative both in front of and behind the camera. One of the biggest demonstrations of her vision came with the film Promising Young Woman, 2020. Although Margot didn't star in it, her company produced it, and the project carried her fingerprints all over it. The film, written and directed by Emerald Fennell, was a darkly comedic and daring exploration of trauma, revenge, and resilience. Its bold storytelling sparked global conversations about gender, power, and justice, and it went on to win an Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay. For Margot, this was validation that Lucky Chap could be more than just a side project. It was a game changer. She was now recognized not only as a star but also as a producer with a sharp eye for groundbreaking material. Margot continued balancing her dual identities as actress and producer with remarkable ease. In Dreamland, 2019, another Lucky Chap production, she played a Depression-era fugitive, showing audiences a more vulnerable, stripped-down side of her talent. Around this time, she also starred in Bombshell, portraying a composite character based on the women who spoke out against Fox News executive Roger Ailes. The film was harrowing, intimate, and deeply relevant. For her performance, Margot earned her second Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress, proving once again that she had the range to inhabit roles of both glamour and grit. But it was in 2022 and 2023 that Margot truly began to feel the weight of global superstardom. After reprising Harley Quinn in The Suicide Squad and continuing to delight fans with her electric, unpredictable performance, she took on two very different films, David O. Russell's Amsterdam and Damien Chazelle's Babylon. Both films were ambitious, sprawling explorations of art, excess, and history, and while they divided critics and audiences, Margot's performances stood out as fearless. In Babylon, she played Nellie Leroy, a fictionalized actress navigating the wild early days of Hollywood's transition from silent films to talkies. It was a role drenched in chaos and passion, and Margot threw herself into it completely, capturing the desperation, hunger, and vulnerability of an artist chasing immortality on the silver screen. Yet nothing could have prepared her or the world for what came next. In 2023, Margot Robbie stepped into the role of a lifetime, Barbie. The idea of making a live-action Barbie movie had floated around Hollywood for years, but many saw it as an impossible task. How could one of the most iconic, controversial dolls in history be translated into a film that felt fresh, relevant, and meaningful? For Margot, it was a challenge worth embracing. She and Lucky Chap teamed up with Warner Brothers and director Greta Gerwig, determined to reimagine Barbie in a way that no one expected. From the very beginning, Margot understood the cultural weight of Barbie. For decades, Barbie had been seen as a symbol of unattainable beauty standards, a doll both adored and criticized by generations. Margot knew that if the movie was going to succeed, it couldn't just be a glossy toy commercial. It had to be bold, self-aware, and thought-provoking. That's why bringing Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach on board to write the script was a masterstroke. Together, they crafted a story that was funny, satirical, emotional, and deeply human. When filming began, Margot immersed herself completely in the role. She studied Barbie's history, worked closely with Greta to shape the character, and even leaned into the surreal aspects of Barbie's world with fearless commitment. The sets were vibrant and meticulously crafted, filled with details that celebrated Barbie's legacy while poking fun at it. Margot's Barbie was not just a doll come to life. She was a reflection of what it means to exist in a world full of expectations, contradictions, and pressures. When Barbie was released in July 2023, it became a cultural phenomenon. The film wasn't just a success, it was an event. Audiences dressed in pink to attend screenings, social media exploded with Barbie-themed trends, and the film's marketing campaign became one of the most memorable in recent history. But beyond the spectacle, the film resonated deeply with people around the world. It sparked conversations about gender roles, identity, and the meaning of perfection. It managed to celebrate Barbie while also deconstructing her, giving audiences both nostalgia and something new to think about. For Margot Robbie, Barbie was more than just another blockbuster. It was proof that she had achieved exactly what she set out to do when she first came to Hollywood: to break free from stereotypes, to shape her own path, and to create stories that mattered. As both star and producer, she had guided one of the riskiest projects of her career into becoming a billion-dollar success. The film was nominated for multiple awards, broke box office records, and cemented her as one of the most influential women in the film industry. But what made Margot's journey with Barbie even more remarkable was how personal it felt. For years, she had been told she was too beautiful to be taken seriously, that she was just another pretty face in Hollywood. Yet here she was, leading a film that not only showcased her comedic and dramatic talents, but also challenged the very ideas of beauty, femininity, and identity that had once threatened to define her. After Barbie, Margot Robbie stood at the pinnacle of her career. She was no longer just a breakout star from The Wolf of Wall Street. She was an Academy Award-nominated actress, a producer of groundbreaking films, and the face of one of the biggest cinematic events of the decade. She had built an empire not just through talent, but through vision, resilience, and a refusal to be boxed in. And yet, through all of this, Margot remained grounded. Those who worked with her often described her as warm, down-to-earth, and fiercely collaborative. Despite her fame, she never lost the authenticity that defined her early days. Whether she was on the set of a billion-dollar blockbuster or a small indie drama, Margot carried herself with the same passion and dedication. That balance between superstardom and authenticity is what made her truly magnetic. Away from the flashing lights of Hollywood and the endless noise of premieres, Margot Robbie has always guarded her personal life with quiet dignity. Despite her global fame, she is not someone who thrives on publicity for its own sake. For her, privacy is not just a choice but a form of protection, a way to preserve the parts of herself untouched by the industry. She married Tom Ackerley, a British assistant director, in 2016 after the two met on the set of Suite Française. Their relationship blossomed quietly, far from the eyes of paparazzi, built on mutual respect, humor, and shared passion for filmmaking. Together with close friends, they co-founded Lucky Chap Entertainment, blending both love and work into a partnership that has become one of the most stable and inspiring unions in Hollywood. While many stars often make their relationships public fodder, Margot and Tom have kept theirs almost sacred, rarely sharing intimate details. They prefer to live their life with balance, splitting their time between bustling Los Angeles and quieter corners of the world where they can simply be themselves. Margot has often said that having a home life that feels grounded allows her to dive fearlessly into the chaotic, emotional worlds of her characters. That sense of stability is what gives her the strength to take risks on screen. But Margot's life is not defined solely by the films she makes or the awards she earns. Beyond Hollywood, she has emerged as a cultural icon, admired not only for her beauty and talent, but also for her intelligence, wit, and drive. She represents a new kind of Hollywood star, one who understands both the business and artistic sides of cinema, one who refuses to be pigeonholed, and one who uses her influence to create opportunities for others. With Lucky Chap, she has amplified the voices of women in an industry long dominated by men, helping to shift the landscape toward more inclusive storytelling. In doing so, she has inspired countless young women who see in her not just a celebrity, but a role model. Her impact has also reached the fashion world, where she has become a global style icon. Margot's red carpet appearances are often hailed as lessons in timeless elegance, blending old Hollywood glamour with modern sophistication. She has worked closely with fashion houses like Chanel, not just as a face for campaigns, but as a collaborator who brings her own taste and sensibilities to the designs she wears. Yet despite her style icon status, Margot is known to prefer comfort and simplicity in her private life, often describing herself as someone happiest in jeans, a t-shirt, and bare feet. This contrast between her dazzling public persona and her grounded personal preferences makes her all the more relatable to fans. Even with all her achievements, Margot Robbie's story feels far from over. At just 33 in 2023, she has already accomplished what many spend entire careers chasing: Academy Award nominations, billion-dollar blockbusters, cultural impact, and a reputation as one of the most respected talents in Hollywood. And yet, she speaks often about how much she still wants to do. Her ambitions stretch beyond acting. She wants to continue producing, directing, and shaping the kinds of stories that will define cinema for the next generation. She has hinted at exploring more genres, from psychological thrillers to historical epics, showing that her appetite for storytelling knows no limits. What makes Margot's future so exciting is the sense of unpredictability she brings. Just as she surprised audiences with her electric transformation into Harley Quinn, or with her ability to balance comedy and tragedy in I, Tanya, or with the cultural phenomenon of Barbie, she seems determined to keep evolving. She is not an actress who plays it safe. She thrives on challenges, on roles that demand reinvention, on projects that force her to grow. In that way, she carries the spirit of the great legends of cinema, stars like Audrey Hepburn, Meryl Streep, and Cate Blanchett, while carving a path that is uniquely her own. Margot's legacy is already visible in the way audiences and critics talk about her. She has shifted the conversation around what it means to be a female star in Hollywood. No longer confined to being a pretty face, she has shown that beauty and depth can coexist, that commercial success and artistic credibility can live side by side. Her choices have demonstrated that women can command billion-dollar box offices while also producing daring, intimate dramas. And perhaps most importantly, she has shown that fame does not have to erase authenticity. Looking back, it's almost surreal to think of the young Australian girl who once dreamed of Hollywood while surfing the waves of the Gold Coast. That girl has now become one of the most powerful forces in the global film industry. And yet, when Margot Robbie speaks in interviews, she often comes across with the same humility and enthusiasm she had in the beginning. She laughs easily, admits her insecurities openly, and talks about her craft with a kind of awe that suggests she still sees acting as a dream come true. This humility is what keeps her human, even as her star shines brighter than ever. In the grand tapestry of Hollywood history, Margot Robbie's story feels like one of resilience, reinvention, and fearlessness. She has risen from being the girl next door on Australian television to becoming a two-time Oscar nominee, a producer shaping the future of cinema, and the face of one of the most successful films of the decade. Her journey is a reminder that the road to greatness is rarely straightforward. It is paved with rejection, reinvention, and relentless belief in oneself. As the credits continue to roll on the chapters of her life, Margot Robbie stands at a moment both triumphant and filled with possibility. She has conquered Hollywood not just by playing the game, but by rewriting the rules. And if her past is any indication, the future promises performances that will surprise us, stories that will challenge us, and a legacy that will inspire generations to come. For audiences around the world, Margot Robbie is more than a star. She is a force, a dreamer, a builder of worlds.